Welcome to the Musicians Creating Prosperity Podcast. Today we're tackling one of the biggest barriers that musicians face in growing their music businesses, investment fears. I'm going to uncover practical steps in how you can break free from these limiting beliefs and what you can do to think as your business as an investor. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, hit the bell icon, and leave us a review. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Musicians Creating Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Fabiana Clore, and today we're going to talk about how you can break free from investment fears when you're thinking about growing your music business. You see, one of the biggest barriers that musicians face when they're growing their business is taking steps into the unknown. And investment will always require you to take a leap of faith based out of a vision of what you're trying to achieve, not based on what you have in the moment. Now, investment is something that we're going to talk today about, not only from a financial standpoint, which is how it's typically considered, but also from an investment of time and from an investment of emotion. Why? Because when you think about investing in your business, it's going to require different ways of committing. And financial investment is not the only way. It's also about how do you make decisions? How do you commit to spending time doing things for your business? Whether you're trying to grow your team, whether you're trying to become a better leader, whether you're trying to expand your skill sets. Every step of the way, if you're serious about growing your business, it will require an investment of time, of money, and also of learning different skills, right? An investment of breaking free from maybe limiting beliefs and emotional patterns that are stopping you. Why is this such a difficult thing to overcome? Why do most musicians struggle with investing? Because we are naturally wired to stay safe. As human species, our brains are wired to hold us from predators, right? To keep us away from potentially dangerous situations that would threaten our life. And so forever, we've been programmed to stay the course, to stay safe. But the problem with self-preservation is that if you're not savvy enough and if you don't understand the distinction between protecting yourself, self-preservation, then you can inadvertently turn self-preservation into self-sabotage. Why? Because your desire to protect yourself can actually become the very reason why you're stuck in the first place and why you're not taking the steps that your business requires and that you need to take in order to get to that next level. So let's talk about how can you make those distinctions between when you should actually listen to those hunches, that intuition that is telling you to stay the course, versus when you should listen into the intuition that is telling you to move forward, to get into the next stage. So in order for you to understand why sometimes you may have competing voices in your head, there's many different ways of understanding personalities, right? We don't all operate under the same perspective every time. There are moments in our life, in our day, where we are operating from a perspective of courage, empowerment, where we're putting things in place, we're seeing things from a vision. But then there are other moments when we may have a more, timid perspective, maybe a more cautious perspective. And we all go through these different shifts in our personalities throughout the day, throughout our weeks, throughout our lives. We don't operate under the same mindset every single moment of the day. And so it's important that you recognize perhaps when you are in a state where you are being more protective. And I think there's benefits from being in different states in your mind and when you're thinking about things, because you can have different ideas that come up. But then it's also important to acknowledge when you can put yourself in a state of action, in a state of movement, and recognize that for some moments in your life, if you're only in a state of introspection, of planning, of processing information, but you're not actually pushing yourself to get into a state of action taking, of moving into the next step, even if it feels scary, then you're always going to be in this conflict of which voice should I listen to, right? We even see it in the movies, in the cartoons. There's like the right side and the left side telling you to do one thing, not to do it. So it's important that you approach this with a little bit of an awareness of your own internal states. What do these look like? And how can you recognize when these voices are telling you to move forward or to stay the course? And how can you make a perhaps decision from a higher level and elevate yourself without listening to necessarily both voices, but seeing things from the wiser version of you, the version that knows deep in your heart that you're meant for more, the version that knows that what got you here won't get you there, and that unless you're willing to see things differently and elevate your mind, elevate your perspective. And when I say elevate, I don't just mean see things differently, but I mean elevate what it takes to see things differently. right? There's going to be always a new skill that you're going to need to acquire. You're going to need to surround yourself by people around you that are elevating your perspective because they're doing what you want to do. There may be some bold conversations that you may need to have with people that are not helping you, or that are maybe making you doubt or causing just dissonance around your environment. And taking that step, there's always going to be things that will cause you to elevate your life. Whether it's not just seeing things, but also taking actions differently. But when it comes to making those decisions, sometimes it's hard to decide, how do you know when it's time to take action and when it's not? And the first step comes from recognizing how you spend your time. What I've seen happen, and really in my own case, I've learned to protect my time so much more. I remember when I just started this process of building my online business, I was at a moment in my life where I literally had no time. I was running a university program, working 40 hours a week. I had 2 kids, including a newborn at the time. I mean, by all standards, if you were to have looked at my life, you would have thought that was the worst time for me to start a business, because I had so much to deal with already. And legitimately, I could have checked out from this and said, no, I'm not going to do this because I've got too much on my plate. But in my heart, I knew that I could create more ways of helping musicians, that I was in a way confining my ability to make an impact by limiting myself only to the university students that I was working with as a university professor at the time. I knew that there were musicians out there, creators, who could benefit from the skills that I had to offer, but that would require me learning how to build a business online, how to position my brand, how to position the offer, and really surrounding myself with other information, other people. Initially, it felt like it was probably the worst time for me to do that, because on top of running my my business, on top of running the university program, I also had a brick and mortar music school that I had founded several years prior that I was co-running with my husband. So I had to really take a step back and ask myself, what do I really want? How important is it for me to start building a different way of working, start creating space for the life that I want to build that is not the one I have right now? And through that true soul searching and reflection, I had to make the decision that even if it was just 1 hour a day, that I would commit in 1 hour a day to becoming who I needed to become, to learning the things, to growing myself, and taking the steps, not only financially, but also from a time standpoint, and committing to becoming a different version of myself to build the life that I wanted to build. And it was really scary. And I felt in many instances that I wasn't sure if things were going to work out or not. And I had to really take some time to reflect on what would be the other option. I think when we think about investing and making choices, whether it's to start a business, to create something new, whether you already have a business and maybe you're considering hiring more team members, right? Investment can come in many different forms. There's always this element of, oh, it'll take effort. It'll take like some effort, a change, learning new skills, investing financially, or investing from a time standpoint, or having difficult conversations. And when you can think about what is the reason you're trying to make that step, what are you trying to achieve? And you focus more on that ultimate goal rather than what it's going to take to get there, then that vision is what helps you move through the initial fears. And that vision is what helps you bypass this self-preservation instinct and turn it into self-realization, and not let that self-preservation sabotage your success, because now you're actually anchoring on the vision of what you want. But it's really difficult to take these steps if you're not clear on the reasons why you want to make these things happen. If you're only focused on the initial effort required to make the changes, whether it's financial, whether it's committing your time, whether it's committing yourself emotionally, whether it's having boundaries, creating different conversations with people in your life who may not understand you, if you're unclear on the reasons why you're doing this in the first place, that will make it so easy for you to want to quit and to take a step back and just not do the things. I remember the first time I hired my team member in my business, I had a lot of doubts around how I would really turn this investment from a new team member into something that would justify itself, that would help my business grow, that would allow me to win my time back. I had a lot of doubts because I wasn't even sure how I would delegate things to this new team member. I was so used to doing everything myself. And for those of you who are watching and may still be in this moment of investing in team and asking yourself whether it's worth it or not, This is one of the reasons that I am so passionate about talking about these things with musicians, because I know that so many of us hold on to control for way too long because we have a desire to be perfect. We have a desire to get it done just right and to make sure that it's always up to our standards. And we fear that hiring people and delegating things to others, investing in team, can result in less quality, or people not finishing the work, or not doing it at the same level of excellence that we would want. And so the thing about investing in team is that it requires you to invest in your leadership skills. And that's something that I discovered very early on as I started bringing people on to support me. I realized that it wasn't enough to just delegate tasks to people and say, hey, can you do this for me? I needed to learn how to build the systems, the procedures that could be duplicated, and that could then be taken on by others in a clear and precise way that would allow people to know how to succeed, what success even meant in executing these tasks, right? But once again, that required me to invest not only in the skills and the learning of how to hire a team, how to grow a business with people around you, but also it required me to commit to stepping into a new level of leadership and learning about leadership. You may have heard the term, oh, you're a natural born leader. Yes, there may be people who have, leadership skills more ingrained, but I believe leadership is a skill just like any other skill. And when you commit to becoming a leader, when you invest in your leadership skills, when you invest in your ability to guide others and not just hire people and delegate it and expect them to do it without you guiding them, then you start becoming an investor in your business. Why? Because now you're not just doing the things in your business, now you're investing in growing it in a way that can work without you. One of the things I'm very passionate about talking is how to put businesses on autopilot, how to build a business just like I did when I started my first music school. Never in a million years did I think that 5 years later I would be moving to another part of the country and that it would be basically running itself, right, on autopilot. When I started the program, I started my business, I pretty much envisioned being in it, involved forever. I didn't think otherwise. And yet 5 years later, my husband and I were running it remotely from Texas while I was building the university program, and the business was on its own. So it required me to invest in a new life, invest in a new risky step, where frankly, many people around us, some of our business advisors even, were concerned about just how could we leave the business. And we had never seen anyone do it in this type of music school, like unique location type of thing. And so we just decided to take that step, and move out of a place of faith and not let the fear stop us. And believe me, we had a lot of fear. Like, it was not without fear. But here's the thing. When you're able to take steps, again, out of the vision of what you're trying to achieve, then the investment effort that you put in, whether it's taking a step out of faith, whether it's connecting with people and maybe getting yourself out of your current circle, whether it's investing in skills, investing in equipment, investing in an instrument, investing in team, every moment of this is only going to be fueled when you are willing to see the investment as a necessary step that is going to ultimately create the next stage in your life. And rather than seeing it as a sacrifice that you need to make, you see it as an initial step that will bring you that reward. Why? Because when you're clear on what is the reward, what is the goal, and you can anchor yourself more on that than on the initial step you need to take, then no longer the investment feels like an investment. No longer does it feel like something you're sacrificing. It is a necessary step that is becoming a catalyst. So the investment can turn into a catalyst for growth when you change your perspective around it, and when you're not thinking that this is going to stop you, and when you're able to push down the voices that tell you, don't do this because what if it fails? What if it doesn't work out? Here's how I've also been able to counteract any investment fears. When you think about what your life would look like if you stay where you are, and you envision keeping your maybe business at the level that it's at, or frankly, even investing around household help, getting people around your house to help you take things off your plate, everything you can do to win back your time is going to be so, so important for you. But it will only be a gateway for success if you can see it as a catalyst for growth rather than a sacrifice, right? I literally came to Miami a few weeks ago, and I was going to drive myself to Miami. I live about 3.5 hours away. And it was going to be between coming and going. It was going to take maybe 10 hours of my time, or 15 if I included local, in-city transportation. And a few years ago, I would have not thought about it, and I would have just gotten in my car and drove from my home and come and spend the days at the conference and just driving my way through everything. And instead, I took a step back and I said, what could I do with those 15 hours back? How much more progress could I make in my business? How much more progress could I catch up with my emails, with my communications, even with my deep work, content creation? How much could I achieve if I were to buy myself a ticket to be able to go on a train and not have to drive to that trip? And I calculated that I was winning myself around 15 hours back in my time. And the amount of progress that I could do, like I literally didn't have those 15 hours normally in my week. You know what I mean? My week is usually very, very busy with other things that take priority. And I started realizing, oh my goodness, this is going to be the best investment. That train ticket, those, small Uber fares here and there will pay back, will be so worth it for me to buy back my time to be able to focus on what I need to do in my business rather than driving. So it's about thinking at all of the decisions you make in your life, from small decisions around logistics, around just life expenses, household help, business support, and thinking that every time you make an investment, you're actually accelerating the growth of your life. Thinking about it also from a health standpoint. When we invest in our health, primarily I would say, when it comes to health, the biggest investment is time. Even though I've hired health coaches and I've worked with people who I've invested in to get guidance around improving my health, I would say the biggest investment when it comes to health has been time investment. It's been committing the time on a daily basis to exercise, to work out, to meditate, to reflect, to do my sauna, to do the things that I know help me recharge and fuel my body and my mind. When it comes to health, it's more of a time investment than it is any other type. I've recognized that a healthy business can only be fueled by a healthy body. Your body is your business. And when you look at investing in your body and in your wealth, in your health, then you can actually recognize that it's not just to live longer, to be healthy, but it's actually going to directly impact everything else that you do in your life, right? And so when you think about, maybe you need to wake up an hour earlier to get that exercise in before your day starts, or maybe you need to have some boundaries in your schedule and not feel guilty for stopping in the middle of the day to go to the gym because you promised it to yourself. It's so easy to skip our own promises to ourselves. It's easier to show up for those who are waiting for you. Maybe you show up for your clients, maybe you show up for your family, for your kids. But when it comes to showing up for yourself, specifically in your health, I have personally found that it's one of the easiest rules to break, the easiest promises to break. Why? Because no one's watching, right? No one's going to hold you accountable. No one's going to tell you, unless you're working with a very good coach who's keeping you track of every single workout you do every day. Chances are, if you miss that appointment you made with yourself, you don't invest the time in your own health and well-being, you will not see direct implications right away. Of course, over the long term of your life, you will absolutely see the implications of not taking the time. But right now, when you see every hour that you block in your day, every hour that you block in your week, in your month, as a practical catalyst for your growth, and instead of thinking it as a sacrifice, you see it as the catalyst. It's actually the step that will take you to the next direction. Then you will no longer have hesitations. You will no longer think, I have to hold back, I have to stay where I am. You will look at each of these sacrifices, quote unquote, as catalysts for growth. So what is the basic message from this episode is that how you see investing will make or break your success. It's not about the investment in and of itself. It's not about investing in guiding yourself, in coaching, in mentorship, in team, in advertising. It's about your relationship with investing. It's about how you make decisions on a day-to-day basis. Small decisions, medium decisions, big decisions. How do you think about your life? How do you think about your business? How do you think about yourself as an investor instead of just the solopreneur, instead of the mother, the father, instead of the musician, the creative, the teacher? How do you think of everything that you do as an investor, from your investment in your body to your investment in your relationships? That's another thing. When you talk about relationships, One of the things that I found really, really difficult is creating time for the right relationships and investing in connection and building moments of connection with people around you. It's so easy to just let life kind of take over and go into one activity, the next, especially if you've got kids, etc. And personally, I've had to carve out and see it as an investment of my time to make space for my relationships with my kids, with my husband, even in creating new relationships. I recently moved from Texas to Florida, and I've been slowly building relationships in the new environment that I'm in with a new community. And, I've had to make conscious decisions around how to build those relationships and nurture those relationships. And it hasn't just happened by chance. It's been a result of deciding to invest in the time to create those relationships. So I believe that, for you, if you're watching this episode, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe there are areas in your life where you've hesitated to invest in yourself, not just financially, but also from a level of commitment, from a time perspective, from an emotional standpoint. Maybe you're not recognizing the true result that you can get. Maybe you're not seeing, maybe you don't even think it's possible. Maybe you haven't committed to yourself because you don't believe you can achieve the results. But what if you could change that? What if you could listen to this and now start changing that perspective to actually recognize that those steps that you have been hesitating to take can actually become the very catalysts that will change everything for you. And it's in your ability to have a better relationship with investing, to be able to turn your initial sense of self-preservation that may be keeping you from that and turn that into self-actualization. Let's bypass the self-sabotage. Let's stop stopping yourselves, and let's actually doubt that you wouldn't succeed. What if instead of doubting that you can succeed, right? What if instead of telling yourself, oh, I don't know if I can take this step because what if it doesn't work out? What if you were to doubt those actual doubts? What if you would say, why wouldn't this work out? Why couldn't I get fit? Why couldn't I have great relationships? Why couldn't I grow my business and explore, taking courageous steps, hire that person, invest in that coach, invest in that advertising campaign, invest in my upgraded equipment? What if I could succeed? What if there was no other option but success? If you could act as if success was guaranteed, I guarantee you would make much more bolder decisions in your life. So start taking actions as if success was guaranteed. I know it isn't, but when you start operating from a place of faith instead of fear, you will see how you can change your business, your life, your health, your relationships, everything that matters to you. So let's start investing together. Thank you for watching. I hope you loved this episode. I loved sharing it with you, and let me know what your key takeaway was. Of course, I'd love for you to leave a review so that we can share this podcast with more people in our community. Until next time, let's prosper together.